let's talk about something we all have but rarely think about, an invisible fortress. It's this fortress that protects our innermost self, your thoughts, your feelings, your overall well-being. And it's not made of stone or anything like that. It's built from a set of rules and limits we call personal boundaries. And really, they're the living expression of your own self-worth.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You get to the end of a long day or you hang up the phone after a conversation and you just feel completely hollowed out. Maybe you're a little bit angry or resentful, but you can't quite put your finger on exactly why. It's this super familiar, really uncomfortable feeling.
Well, that feeling, that's not random. That's a signal. It's your own internal alarm system screaming that the walls of your invisible fortress have just been breached. It's telling you your personal boundaries are being compromised.
So, let's get into it. What exactly is this invisible fortress? We're going to start by exploring what I like to call the architecture of the self and really define what personal boundaries are.
The simplest way to think about them is as these invisible lines that define where you end and another person begins. Now, this isn't about shutting people out. Not at all. It's really about teaching people how to respectfully and safely connect with you.
But here's the thing. Boundaries aren't just some simple on or off switch. They actually exist on a spectrum. And the goal, as we're about to see, is to move away from these flimsy, porous walls and towards something more like a well-tended garden gate.
On one extreme, you've got porous boundaries. These are super weak, they get crossed all the time, and they leave you feeling constantly drained and used. Then, on the other extreme, you have rigid boundaries. These are so fortress-like that they're totally isolating. Nothing gets in, but nothing gets out either. And honestly, neither one is doing us any favors.
So what we're aiming for is something in the middle. Healthy boundaries. And I love this analogy. They're like a garden gate. You control the latch. You decide what good things to let in, and you decide what harmful things to keep out. It allows for real connection, but without ever sacrificing your own safety and well-being.
And we need these gates in pretty much every area of our lives. We need physical boundaries for our personal space, emotional ones for our feelings, boundaries to protect our time and our energy, which are so precious, intellectual boundaries for our thoughts and ideas, and, of course, digital boundaries for our lives online.
So what does it actually feel like when one of these lines gets crossed? Let's dive into how to recognize the red flags that signal a boundary violation, because spotting it is the very first step in defending your fortress.
Okay, this next part is absolutely critical. It doesn't matter one bit if the other person meant to be hurtful or disrespectful. When we're talking about boundaries, impact is everything. Intent is irrelevant. If their action disregards your limits and it harms you, a line has been crossed. Period.
Let me walk you through a classic example. Just picture this. You're packing up your stuff, you're about to head out for the weekend, you can practically taste the freedom.
And then you hear those 6 little words from your boss. A simple question, right? But it lands with the weight of a ton of bricks. You feel that sinking feeling right in your gut? That's the alarm bell. In that one moment, your personal time and your energy are literally being colonized. They're being claimed by someone else without your permission. Or how about this one? We all have a friend like this. Their name pops up on your phone, and your heart sinks a little because you know it's not going to be a conversation. Nope, it's going to be a one-way monologue all about their problems. When you finally get off that call, you just feel completely depleted, maybe anxious and totally invisible. That's a classic emotional boundary violation. It's called emotional dumping.
So how do we actually get better at catching these things in the moment? Well, it turns out we all have a pretty sophisticated built-in alarm system. The trick is just learning how to listen to it.
It really comes down to tuning into 3 main channels of information. First, you've got to listen to the physical sensations in your body. Second, you have to be able to name the specific emotions that are bubbling up. And third, you need to question the stories and thoughts running through your head. And these signals are incredibly clear once you start paying attention. Physically, it could be that knot in your stomach, or a tight chest, or maybe just sudden exhaustion. Cognitively, it's that little voice of self-blame that tells you, oh, I shouldn't be so sensitive. But here's the one to really watch for, the emotional signals. That quick flash of resentment, that is the single most important indicator that a boundary has been crossed. These aren't just random feelings, they are crucial data. So why are we talking about all of this? Why does it matter so much? In this final section, we're going to get to the heart of it.
the art of self-respect, and why defending these boundaries is maybe one of the most important skills we can ever develop.
This right here is probably the biggest mental hurdle for people. We're often taught that saying no or setting a boundary is somehow selfish or rude, but the truth is the exact opposite. Setting a healthy boundary is a profound, fundamental act of self-respect. It's self-care in its purest form.
When you boil it all down, it comes to this simple, powerful idea. Every single time you state a limit, you're sending a message, both to yourself and to the world, that says, I matter. My feelings matter. My time, my energy, they matter.
And this is exactly why listening to those internal signals is so vital. That discomfort you feel, that knot in your stomach, it's not a flaw. It's not a weakness you need to ignore. It is your wisest, most loyal guardian, standing at the gate of your inner self, warning you that something is wrong.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with just one question to think about. I want you to take a moment, tune in right now, and just listen. What is that knot in your stomach, that little flicker of resentment, that feeling of dread trying to tell you? What is your internal alarm saying?